You're a good boy. Such a good boy. This is Spike, and I'm CharLee Simons, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about: religion and politics. That's the name of the show. Do not talk. This is just know anytime I'm on the air, always here on my left is Spike. That's his spot whenever I'm doing these shows. So funny. He doesn't care much for going on camera. It's like he actually knows. He'll be looking right at you, and then as soon as I hold up my phone to take a picture, kind of like a kid. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. I have Christy Grab. Christy Grab is on the show today, talking about oaths of office. Oh, that sounds boring. Click. Okay, I'm gone. Nope. Wait. Hold it. People who serve in the military. I had to swear an oath, an allegiance to protect the Constitution of the United States of America and to protect my commander in chief, good and bad. Currently good. But I had to swear that oath, and anybody who serves in office in any kind of capacity has to swear an oath. Hand on the Bible, right hand. Solemn. I state your name. Solemnly swear. And at the end, it's so help me God. So I think people like in California, our state senator Scott Wiener hates that part. I really believe that's why so many of these people who are currently holding elected office have not taken the vote or the oath, not taken the oath. So that's what Christy's going to be talking about on the show today. Speaking of the Wiener, check this out. This was 7 years ago. He's been senator since 2016? Out of the liberal bastion. It's basically the Sodom of Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm quite convinced of that. San Francisco would be the Sodom part. Los Angeles, we'll make that Gomorrah. But it unfortunately rules the roost for California because of their huge population base. The rest of the state is, so many of us are so red, despite what the media and the Democrats keep telling you. We're a very actually conservative state and used to be a red state. We've had great governors like Ronald Reagan, Pete Wilson, George Deukmejian. Notice I'm leaving out Arnold Schwarzenegger. We've had some great conservative leaders in the state of California. And at one point, we had unprecedented economic growth that put us up to the fourth or fifth, depending on who you talk to, largest economy in not the United States of America, the world. Has to do with resources. You get geographical aspects to it, weather, hiring, and the workforce that's available, on and on and on. Put California and the agriculture, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, boom. And we're just as close to declaring bankruptcy, except they passed a law that it's illegal for them to declare bankruptcy. That's a good trick, Democrats. So we're in serious trouble. Government numbers, and I never trust them, say that we are 70 billion. That's 1,000 million per billion. $70 billion in debt. How about all those surpluses the Governor Hairdo kept finding? What happened to those? Oh, they're gifts and grants from Uncle Joe, slow Uncle Joe. There's Uncle Joe. He's moving kind of slow at the junction. I'm so glad Biden's gone. Anyway, Scott Wiener is one of the worst. He's a senator from San Francisco, and he introduces a lot of bad bills and says a lot of stupid things. And this past, again, this was 7 years ago, KGO television in San Francisco, ABC, Channel 7, had him on to talk about what was going on at the time. And one of the things was legalization of marijuana, which people here stupidly voted for. Watch.
All right, I'm joined now by State Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco. Thanks for coming in. Let's talk off that piece about gun control, because California has some pretty strict laws. Are they tough enough, and are we ever going to get more meaningful legislation that prevents what seems like a rash of these shootings?
Notice the word seems like. He didn't throw out any facts. There were no figures. There were no graphs or charts. It seems like we're having a rash of gun violence.
Sure, we have pretty tight gun control.
You think? You think we do? You dumbass.
In California, I'm looking at additional measures we can explore for next year.
Oh, how exciting!
We need fewer guns in our state,
we need fewer guns in our state. Apparently, we just have way too many of them. You law-abiding citizens and all your guns, crazy. You need to turn them over to us, let us destroy them, or just gift them to the criminals who will keep their guns.
Really, this problem is not going to be definitively addressed until we have national gun control. Because
yeah, that's right. We can't just trailblaze in California. We got to force the rest of the nation to adhere to our stupidity.
We know that whenever you have one of those gun shows in Nevada near the California border.
Nevada. You've been here how long? You don't know how to pronounce Nevada?
Border violence upticks in California.
Did you hear that? You hear what he just said? Every time there's a gun show in Nevada, violent upticks in California. No graphs, no charts, no proof of it, no numbers, but he said it, so it must be true. So
we need to have federal action.
All right, let's talk about recreational marijuana, because that becomes legal in California on January the 1st. You have some...
It's been a dismal failure, by the way. Dismal failure. And in San Francisco, the Board of Supervisors realized there were a whole bunch of people just deciding, yeah, I'm going to sell pot and I can because you didn't spell out the rules when you legalized the use of it. So there's no regulation of how it is sold. So everybody hit the streets selling joints or selling whatever and smoking whenever they wanted, everywhere they wanted. You can't smoke in a restaurant, cigarettes. But apparently you can pot. It's so ludicrous. But the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, of which Scott Wiener used to be one of them, said, yeah, this is kind of crazy. We need to reel this in a little bit and set some boundaries. Oh, no, Wiener's not having that.
Concerns about zoning, in particular in San Francisco, with regard to the Board of Supervisors. What are you most concerned about?
Sure. Well, 74% of San Franciscans voted in favor of legalizing adult use of cannabis.
74% said, yeah, this is a fine idea. We're already so jacked up, screwed up, stupid, distracted. Let's add in being high.
Cannabis, and we have a long history of being on the cutting
being stupid.
Edge of medical cannabis in San Francisco. Right now, the Board of Supervisors is considering very, very restrictive zoning legislation that would effectively ban new cannabis businesses in almost all of San Francisco. So basically,
that's terrible. How dare they?
Wiping out the industry in terms of new businesses.
Wiping it out?
That's not okay.
In terms of new businesses, he said. So in other words, we got a plethora of people suddenly deciding they're a pot dispenser or dispensary. So we need to start regulating the new ones coming in. Oh, no. That'll keep everybody from selling and buying.
Contradicts the will of the voters. I'm a believer in good regulation of cannabis and smart zoning. We want to have a buffer around schools, for example.
Sure.
But they're going to...
Thanks for bringing that up, by the way. That was another thing they were trying to prevent, all these dispensaries popping up right across the street from high schools and so on. Junior high schools. Yep.
Far, and they're going to destroy the industry in San Francisco.
It seems like the notion that San Francisco is going to be ultra conservative on this is hard.
Why is that conservative, by the way? When it involves children, I don't think politics come into it. You're going to protect the kids. And if you are too stupid to see the importance of that, then it's time for you to sit down because the adults are talking.
To imagine.
And these are good people on the Board of Supervisors. They're my former colleagues. I believe that they'll do the right thing. We have been trying to create more public awareness about the issue so that we're not just seeing the minority of opponents come out to City Hall. We want to see a good cross-section. And again, 74% voted.
Yeah, 74%. San Francisco, shut up. You really have lost your way. used to be such a great city, but they always consider themselves progressive in all things. And it's not an accident. I mean, kick out God, kick out the church. Have you ever tried to actually find a Christian church in San Francisco or even in the surrounding areas around it? They're not there. They're gone. They have not been allowed to build. They have not been allowed zoning. There's no place for them in the city by the bay. Let's bring in, ladies and gentlemen, for your dining and dancing pleasure, a woman who I hope is able to sweep these clowns out of office. I don't think it's possible because we have a whole lot of really, really dumb voters in California. And now with over 2 million in our sanctuary state who are here illegally and have driver's licenses, thanks to Jerry Brown, and were able to register to vote, even though they're not supposed to, wink, wink, through the DMV, the motor voter law. I don't see how we can, as an electorate, actually ever even have another Republican governor for the rest of my life in California. What do you think, Christy?
Unless they do something about the election rigging, no, we're never going to have another conservative in any office.
I don't think so either.
Sandy,
We'll have pockets, and we'll have people like Kevin Kiley, who's doing a pretty good job. We'll have people like Tom McClintock, who's in a very red area. At one point, I had a lot of admiration and respect for him, but he's done a lot of things lately that have really made me question what happened to Tom McClintock. But that seems to be the California way. You'll get somebody in there who's really conservative, and yeah, that's right, and I'm going to put us back on the right track, and I'm going to, steer this big monolithic bus away from the cliff that it's plummeting towards. And then once they get in there, things start changing. Their attitudes change, and they go all rhino. And we have our convention next, coming up in just a week and a half, the Republican State Convention up in Sacramento, California, the belly of the beast. And I'm there. I'm one of the delegates. I'm a candidate delegate actually, and I'm going rhino hunting, sister. I'm going rhino hunting because unless we actually fix our own party in the state of California, I don't see what chance we have of fixing clowns like Scott Wiener and what they've done to us successfully.
So
The things that have happened in my state are abysmal.
I have a more negative attitude. I think at this point, the only way to fix the system is to throw them all out and replace them with people by drawing names out of a hat and repealing and repealing the bad laws, and then we can have elections and vote in new people. But honestly, at this point, the system is so broken and so rigged
Yeah.
that I really think that only a group of random people who have no ulterior motives.
Business people, not
Yeah.
politicians.
No, and not only business people, moms and farmers. Like, we can talk about this. This is not the appropriate topic, but one of the reasons why the system is broken is because everybody in the legislative world is a lawyer, and they don't know anything about anything. And so lobbyists come in and say, blah, 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 all these great benefits, plus we'll give you all this money for your reelection campaign. And they're like, okay. And so we need people in office that actually know something about the different industries so that good laws can be passed and not like sweetheart deals for special interest groups.
Yep. That's why there'll never be tort reform in California. I'm throwing a number out here. It's just I don't have the charts, facts, and figures, but just based on my experience, I'm guessing 98% of every Democrat holding elected office up and down the entire state are freaking attorneys. They all seem to be attorneys. And
There's
you're absolutely right. They've never really done anything other than that. That's all they know. They can't relate to you and me, and especially they seem to have a hatred for the middle class.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's a push right now to run the middle class out of California and replace them with low income immigrants.
Mhm.
because they're easier to control, right? And it's all about
Exactly.
controlling the
Most of the
population.
middle class folks are the ones owning and operating businesses. And we quickly learned, you know what? I may have thought that it was all pie in the sky, incense and peppermints when I was in high school and college. But now that I'm actually running a business and have a family, I realize the best thing the government can do is sit down and shut up. Get out of the way. Leave us alone. Let us do our business, for heaven's sake. Their job, the government's job, is to keep us safe, not to completely take over the running of all things. But that's socialism. That's communism. And this state, I believe, is owned and operated at this point by the Communist Chinese Party. That might be way over the top to some people, but just based on what I've seen, it's bad.
I think it's bigger than that. Like the World Economic Forum agenda is collectivism and all
Mm-hmm.
forms of collectivism, and China is just one form. Um, but I think the overarching agenda is collectivism in all different shapes and forms. But I think the World Economic Forum is the overarching puppet master behind the scenes.
You're right. This is New World Order stuff. This is one world government stuff. And you got to get rid of the middle class because they're the ones that keep stepping up and stopping you and getting people like Donald Trump elected and so on. So you got to get rid of the middle class. You'll have your haves and you'll have your have-nots, and the have-nots will be serving the haves. And everybody in the middle who thinks that they can call the shots and they want the government out of their lives, you got to go. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to bring you down. We're going to ruin you. So much of it started with COVID, didn't it? I mean, why
No,
were the
COVID.
big box stores actually the ones that were deemed acceptable and able to stay open? Why were they accepted, but yet all the mom and pops, they were the ones that were forced to close, and many of them, it ruined them. They ruined family businesses, and they never recovered. They didn't come
It
back.
started way before COVID, but COVID really accelerated the pace of what was already happening.
Yeah, it truly did. So let's talk about this oath of office. Do you have any facts and figures how many people who are currently holding elected offices in the state of California who have refused or slipped by or said, oops, I forgot the oath of office? And why is it important?
Uh, well, let's start with why it's important. It is required by the federal and state constitution to sign an oath of office swearing allegiance to our country. Um, and in California, they removed the under God. So that is not part of the California oath, and the Supreme Court said that that was acceptable. Um, so the reason why somebody would deliberately not sign an oath is because treason of oath is a very serious crime with penalties up to death. Um, and so, if an elected official is going to do something that they know would be considered treason of oath, they will opt to not sign an oath so that they wind up either not being charged for anything or being charged for a lesser. Oh, I'm sorry. So not signing an oath is a felony, and it's punishable with 3 years in prison. So when an elected official chooses not to take an oath, it's because they're making a weighted decision. Do I want to risk going to jail for 3 years if I get caught doing something that I know is a constitutional violation? Or do I want to be hung on a guillotine? And they will decide, I would rather not sign that oath and only get 3 years in prison. So it's a conscientious choice. I don't have, so the new legislative cycle for 2025-2026 started in December. And I just got the O's in the mail. The Secretary of State does everything by snail mail. So I just got the O's in the snail mail yesterday, and I'm actually out of town right now. So I haven't had a chance to open it and look at it. So I can't tell you any specific numbers for the current session right now. But I can tell you that for previous years, I haven't checked all the legislators, but I've checked quite a few. And I would say about half of them have lapses in their O's where they have years where they just don't sign O's.
Because, yeah, after you swear the oath, you do have to sign a certificate saying that you
And
did that.
Well, you have to file it. So you sign it and then you file it with the Secretary of State. And so,
How
yeah,
much
a
of
lot
this
of
do
them,
you think is on purpose?
uh, I think most of them are on purpose. Um, like Joaquin Arambula is one of the ones who very seldomly files O's. So you have to file it for each legislative session when you're elected, right? And Arambula is the one who did the down payment for a legal bill. Remember that passed a couple was it last year or the year before? It passed, but Newsom vetoed it at the last minute.
That
And
was
that
the housing assistance. They
right.
would pay up
That guy has
$50,000, something stupid like that.
yeah, that guy has a serious problem with signing oaths. He lets his oath lapse frequently. Scott Wiener also, he only signed one oath one time when he was newly elected. And then he never signed another oath after that. And when I notified his office and the state Senate that he was working unlawfully without an oath, he refused to sign one. He just wouldn't do it. And the state Senate let him. They let him knowingly work without an oath. And then as far as the deep state people, the people who work behind the scenes, um, all of them have expired O's. Every one of them, they don't re-sign their O's, and many of them have expired 20 plus years ago. And and there's one who did have a current oath, and she had previous lapses in oaths as well. So I checked quite a lot of the deep staters, and none of them were working lawfully. And like I said, this is speaking of 2024 and back. I have not seen the paperwork that I
The
got from the
latest, yeah.
Secretary of State for 2025 and 2026. So once I
Is this
actually
so? You're saying that they're avoiding this on purpose because of the consequences with the things that they're doing, bills they're presenting, things that they're saying, and so on and so forth, which many of them are downright treasonous.
yes, yes.
The punishment, if they're ever punished for these actions, would be far less severe.
So
If
I'll
the
give you
whole
a
thing,
specific example. So SB, I think it's SB 1515. The bill that Shannon Grove introduced in order to make sex trafficking children a felony.
which
When
every
she,
Democrat voted against.
yeah, when she introduced it, it was every child was protected, and the public, what's it called, the Public Safety Commission, gutted it. And so there was 5 people on the Public Safety Commission.
That's what
Three
they
of the
do.
five Three of the 5 didn't have O's. Wiener was one of the 3 that didn't have an oath. And they basically made it so that it protects some kids in some circumstances, but not all children. So, if it doesn't protect 16 and 17-year-olds, it doesn't protect children who have been raped by someone who's under 18. So a 17-year-old can rape an unlimited number of babies or uh like and there
Children.
is zero punishment for that 17-year-old for raping babies. And anyway, so the 3 people, and that is clearly a violation of the Constitution. Like, the Constitution promises to protect us. It doesn't say we'll protect some children in some circumstances. And so by voiding protection of many children, also another thing is it's only a felony if you buy a child twice. So the first time it's okay. Yeah, it's only the second. So if you're the first kid to be raped, sucks to be you. No punishment for that guy. It's only when he gets caught a second time that second kid's protected, but not the first kid. But anyway, like, that's a clear violation of the constitutional rights. And Scott Wiener and the other 2, I have to go look. I'm sorry, I should have looked up which ones it was. Who gutted it face going to prison for not having an oath. Whereas the other 2, which is Kelly Sayarto and that Aisha Wahab, those are the 2 that did have oaths in place. They're facing treason of oath for that. So they might be killed, while the other 3 will only go to jail.
This is crazy. How can we fix this? How can we Who's supposed to be holding these clowns accountable and making sure that this is happening? Who isn't there a?
So
We've got a bureaucracy or a regulatory commission or whatever for everything. We don't have anything for that.
So currently, Rob Bonta is the sole decision maker as to whether or not to prosecute that. Rob
Okay,
Bonta is our attorney. So it's the attorney general who's the sole decision maker on whether or not to prosecute. And Rob Bonta is a bad
dirty.
guy. Like,
He is dirty.
remember the infanticide bill that he was pushing so hard to make it a crime
AB 2223.
illegal? Yeah, to make it illegal to investigate the death of children if they were
It
less
was
than
AB
30 days
AB
old.
2223. That
Yeah.
was Buffy
So
Wicks,
yes,
Wicked
Buffalo
Wicks of the
Bills. Yeah.
West from Oakland. Yeah,
Right. So the fact that Rob Bonta, the attorney general, wants to make it illegal to look into baby murder tells you everything you need to know about what that man's morals are
he is
and
a
what
wicked dude.
his agenda is. And
Yeah.
the fact that he won't stop people from putting laws into place that don't protect children from being harmed.
Let me let's go again. Just sticking with the wiener. Let's take a look at some of the bills that these pigs have tried to get through, and I've got it here somewhere ready to go. No, apparently I don't. Everybody who's watching live right now, this is pretty typical for me. Here it is.
I,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I can pull up the list if you want, but if you've got yours ready, I didn't have mine ready. So
Okay. Yeah. I think I got it right here. This is just wiener stuff. Give me a second, please. You know what would help is if I actually put on my reading glasses, but I hate them, so I rarely ever do. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Let me bring some of these up. All right, let's go full screen. Thank you for your patience. Can you see these? Here's that one bill, according to the LA Times, Senate Bill 1012 by Wiener. Latest attempt to bring psychedelics into the mainstream by legalizing shrooms and so on. They did that in Oregon, and it's been a tragic mistake, and they rescinded it because it was such a disaster. SB 9 is one of the 7 bad bills in 2021. Let's end home ownership. That pig Wiener with Tony Atkins were trying to crush single family zoning in the entire state of California.
they
No more
succeeded.
single family homes. What's
They
that?
succeeded in San Diego. Tony Atkins is my state senator in San Diego, and she succeeded there.
Son of a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Wiener's bill to hold big oil responsible for natural disasters. That just happened after the Palisades fires in Los Angeles and Hollywood and everything else, where people just, what a disaster. It's the most catastrophic fire in the history of California so far. Wiener's new bill was to put big oil as being responsible for natural disasters. And the punishment for speaking misinformation or disinformation. This is insane. So the fires down in LA, that was big oil started that. Now, no responsibility for PG&E and their smart meters, which we actually have video of those things suddenly combusting and setting neighborhoods on fire, but that's all right. It's big oil. Amazing. Wiener's bill was passed, the artificial intelligence safety bill. I'm supposed to. Great. Let the Democrats decide what's best for AI. State bill introduced to close the California car break-in. That seemed like, okay, good, because there's such a rash of it in San Francisco that people were literally leaving their windows down and their trunk open so they wouldn't have their windows smashed. But that failed, by the way. That failed. Who wants that? These are just a few of the things. Scott Wiener's bill is going to result in a surcharge to preserve junk fees for restaurant passes and so on. Weiner introduces bill that would allow wildfire victims to sue big oil. There it is again. This just
but not the electric company, right?
but not PG&E or
Not
SoCal
the one that
Edison or any
said
of the others.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. That's the kind of thing when you have somebody unchecked and it representing such a huge base of the population that as San Francisco and Los Angeles goes, they take the rest of us down with them and the whole state. But I don't think that's by accident, Christy, off topic. And you alluded to it earlier with the New World Order Economic Forum crap, WEF. You got to take down California before you can take down the United States, because as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. And if they can cause us to have financial collapse, all while Trump is president, that would just be golden to them. Look what happened with the fires. What was his face? Obama's clown, who said that never let a good tragedy go to waste.
Oh yeah.
They're trying to make it no more single family zoning in the areas that were decimated by the fire. They're trying to create their little smart city. They want to blaze the trail there. They've got the Olympics coming. They got the World Soccer Games coming, and they've got the Super Bowl. It's going to be in LA. So they want to ramp this up, man. Gavin Newsom was all excited with his rocking back and forth while he was talking about it. He was all excited. We got smart cities coming. He didn't call them that, but that's what it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was part of the plan. I mean, they're burning down lots of cities so they can rebuild them as smart cities. You know, Lahaina.
And notice they're always very desirable places to live.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that?
Yeah, and they tried to set fire to San Diego during that time when the LA fires were going. There was quite a few different fires, arson fires started all over the county, and our firemen were on it. They put them out before anything burned. But yeah, there's quite a few. They were trying to burn down all of Southern California.
Yeah, that's very obvious now. And watch what happens.
And going back to what you're saying about the zoning, they've already changed the zoning in San Diego, so then they could put in, replace all these single family residences,
high-rise apartments and condos.
Yeah.
You will own nothing and be happy. Really? Well, somebody will own it. Who's going to own it? Klaus? Who's going to own it? You? This oath of office thing is extremely serious because, at least in the military, that's everything with our service. And we're held accountable for that, too. It's not a joke. And we still say under God. I did not know that they had taken that out in the state of California for elected representatives. They don't have to say that anymore at the end.
No government employee in California has to say it. So every government employee is required to say it, not only elected officials. And that's been removed from the oath completely.
Who did that?
I don't know who did it, but it changed under the Reagan years. So there was actually a second paragraph to the oath as well.
I've never held elected office, so I did not know that. I probably should, but I don't. I'm just a good old
so
boy.
The California Constitution requires a second paragraph to be as well as under God. And there was a lawsuit in a different state that also had additional verbiage beyond the federal Constitution verbiage. And I don't remember which state it was, but I believe it was an East Coast state. And so their state Supreme Court ruled that they could only follow the actual verbiage of the Constitution, of the federal Constitution, and couldn't add to it. So California went ahead and changed our oaths to match their ruling, even though it wasn't a California court ruling. And then a different court somewhere else ruled that it was unlawful to make somebody swear an oath to God. That just swearing. So then California removed the under God from that.
That was a whole separation of church and state thing that they keep championing, which, by the way, is not actually in the Constitution. That's a lie, a bold, absolute lie, and it's taught in schools as fact, and it's not. It's a complete lie. That's not what the Constitution says. It was in a letter written by Thomas Jefferson to the Westboro Baptist Church, I think Westboro, and where he mentioned in one sentence separation of church and state, but it wasn't the separation of church from the state. It was the other way around. It was to protect us from ever having a Church of England again, that the pilgrims escaped England so that they could worship God according to his written word, not according to what King Henry VIII said it should mean and how you worship. That's what they were trying to avoid. But all that
But
aside,
again,
I
back
can't
to
seem to
the
convince people of that because they don't actually read the Constitution. They don't even know for themselves, do they?
but back to the World Economic Forum, like, this is an evil agenda. I mean, this is a spiritual battle. And they've been trying very hard to get people to believe that God isn't real and the devil isn't real, so that people don't recognize what's happening for what it is. And the trans agenda is very much a trying to convince people to sacrifice themselves to Baphomet. Baphomet is, their god. He's a demon, and he is a both genders, and so they're trying to convince people to change their bodies to reflect their God, not the God of the Bible. Like, God created us in his image, and they're trying to get people to change their image to reflect the demon.
And it has it's a twofer for them because not only that, but also what a great way to decrease the population, which is also part of their religion, is by getting so many people to embrace the homosexual lifestyle or to alter their bodies to where they'll never even be able to procreate children. Um, that's a twofer for them, isn't it? They get
Mm-hmm.
them.
And that's why, I mean, last year they passed that was it that bill, sorry, I should have reviewed the numbers, but the one where they they made it so that schools cannot tell parents what's going on with their children in terms of gender identity. They
Right.
also in that bill that nobody seems to talk about is it they very clearly said that the schools can't get rid of groomers. So now groomers can't be fired when they are grooming children. Another law that's in place currently is, have you heard of the Trevor Project? The Trevor Project is it's a allegedly a suicide hotline for gay and lesbian youth. And all schools are required to give this information to children and tell children, if you're gay or lesbian and you think you're going to commit suicide, you need to call this hotline. Well, the hotline is actually a grooming line. And so once you get on, they introduce you to a friend to help you. And there's a group of parents that are trying to get that taken out of schools, and they're having a hard time with it because it has been legislated that by law these schools are required to give children information about this grooming line.
And if it ever does go to the ballot, which so much of this they're sneaking through and they're voting it on, and Governor Hairdo signing it into law without ever giving us any kind of say or input on it. But if it does make it to the ballot, they give it the most ridiculously stupid, over the top, inane names that are completely the opposite of whatever it is they're trying to do. And they fool us because, unfortunately, many of us don't even pay attention.
But that's how
Um,
the devil works, right? Via
yeah,
deception. It's all
angel
about
of light, angel of light.
And,
Yeah.
the more I look into measures via statutory law, the more I realize that statutory law was created as a tool of deception. It's very easily manipulated, very easy to deceive people with it.
So what do we do besides go to your website? Is gwsandiego.net//blog, right?
Correct. Yes.
GW.
So
What's GW?
um, a long time ago, I had a business, and that was my business.
Okay, so you got the website, so we'll
And
just
so, like, I had paid
gotcha.
for a bazillion years because I thought my business was going to go on forever. But I live in California, and California makes it difficult for business. And anyway, so I had the website and I just recycled it. So
If Tesla and Chevron can't stay solvent here, that they're getting out, what chance do we have?
and it's
It's
not just
insane.
solvent. I mean, it's like the biggest headache of my life was child support. So I had a guy with a child support garnishment, and he worked on commission. And so the child support people would like make my life a living hell, because the wage garnishment said X number of dollars or 25% of the check if it's less than whatever it was. And so he usually made less than the money uh, requested. And so I would send the 25%. And I wasted, my God, like half my life going round and round and round with child support over.
I'm
It's like
sorry.
your form says 25%. No, we want this amount of money, but I can't take that because it's more than is allowed by law because he didn't make that much. Like,
Right.
oh, and also some guy filed a unemployment against like an unemployment claim against me, and he didn't know the name of the business. He didn't know where the business was located. Like it was so obvious fraud. And they harassed the hell out of me, assuming that he was right. Like they gave him the benefit of the doubt. And I was like, he didn't even know the name of the business. Like, why would you think he worked here if he didn't know the name of it? And
Right.
anyway, it was things like that that made me just go, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't deal with the state crap and bureaucracy and oh.
I'm sorry about that, but go to gwsandiego.net, not .com, .net /blog, and you'll get to see a whole lot about this. How can we help? What do we do besides going to the website and checking it out?
So I have started a petition to create a written ledger of people who want to see Wiener's work voided, since he was working unlawfully. He was working fraudulently, and so fraud vitiates everything. Everything he did needs to be voided. So please sign the petition. The other thing to do is I have a calling campaign. And so on my website, pinned to the top is the information about Wiener. And if you scroll to the bottom, it's the phone numbers. There's several offices you can call. And if each call takes 2 or 3 minutes, and if you have a lot of time, call, I think that I listed 5 or 6 offices, call all 5 or 6. If you don't have more than 2 or 3 minutes, call one. But basically, call and say that you want Wiener's work voided because he was working unlawfully. And even though the petition is really important because it's a written ledger, um, the calls scare the heck out of them. They view every phone call as the opinion of 1,000 constituents, and they get very, very frazzled and upset when people actually call. I actually had, so the Secretary of State, or Secretary of the Senate, Erica Contreras, normally ignores me. Like she just completely ignores me. But she did eventually send a letter telling me to like have my people back off, and to not call anybody other than her. So it is working. It really is working.
I really hope your response was, "I'm sorry, who is this?" Um, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I know some people. I have a friend, as a matter of fact, up in the county where I live in Northern California, who has been championing this same thing with the office holders in her county, um, and it falls on deaf ears. Even other conservatives are like, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it."
That's because the
That's the
conservatives
whole
aren't.
attitude in this state now of
Yeah, but the
conservatives.
conservatives aren't signing O's either. When Yvette Corcoran was running for office against Scott Wiener, I was like, hey, you should really use this, because just saying, like, why do you refuse to sign an oath? Why won't you sign an oath? Like, why would you rather go to jail for 3 years than sign a piece of paper? And she told me that she was advised not to use that tactic. And that's not long after she told me that is when I found out. When I said half of the lawmakers, that includes the Republicans, they're not signing oaths consistently either.
It all seems so dirty, doesn't it? And contrived.
Yeah.
It really does, on both sides.
Yeah. So your question about what can we do about it? Right now, the system is rigged, the statutory law system. So I think at this point, our best tool, I should say, is a public humiliation campaign. Just publicly humiliate the heck out of them. And it is working. It really does work. Meanwhile, there are constitutional law groups that are working on bringing constitutional courts back. And if they succeed, and it looks like they might succeed. I mean, they really are working on it. Then in the next year or two, they'll restore constitutional law courts, and then we'll actually have a venue for the people that protects the people. Statutory law is really only for corporations; it's not really for people. And so, like, people don't really have recourse through it. I mean, we've learned it's rigged, right? And so I have a lot of hope in that. And then we'll see what happens with Trump. I mean, we'll see if he
This
makes
needs
good
to
on
be a
his.
statewide. I'm sorry for interrupting, but there has to be big money behind this. This is like ad campaign. This is Madison Avenue kind of stuff, or Los Angeles, some of the greatest advertising agencies in the world. But this has got to be this has got to be hit hard and big, and that's a lot of money. But if you're going to go that route, to embarrass them to do it, but so they'll just sign it, and then they'll count on everyone to forget about it. And the next time they're supposed to, they just won't. What does that do? We need some laws enforced. They're already
Yeah, so
there. They're just not
I
being
was starting
enforced.
I was starting to say hopefully Trump will make good on his promises. So working without an oath is fraud, right? You're fraudulently posing as a government agent. That's the crime that you can go to jail for up to 3 years for. Fraudulently posing as a government agent. And so there is no statute of limitation on fraud. So if we get somebody in power who actually wants to follow the law, an attorney general, or maybe a federal agency that wants to enforce the law, they can go after everyone who's ever worked without an oath. Like, and if they've had even one oath lapse, those people can be prosecuted and go to jail for 3 years. So hopefully, we Trump will make good on his promises, and we will get the bad people out and be able to get good people in who will actually prosecute. And we can. So you know how while LA was burning, they passed that $50 million budget to sue Trump. I honestly believe
Yeah, to
part
Trump-proof California.
I honestly believe part of the urgency of getting that passed, no matter what, so early in the year, has to do with my campaign with the O's. Because in December, I had sent everybody in Senate, everybody in the state Senate that I had an address for, the legislators and the staffers, an email reminding them, like, you know, Trump might actually prosecute, and he can prosecute uh, in
So this whole not
retrospect.
taking an oath thing sounds like it is. It's been a long-term plan to cover their asses.
Hmm.
If we
Yep.
ever got somebody in like Trump, or an actual
Yep.
strong conservative governor, they're protecting themselves. You're absolutely right. It's
So I
far less
really think,
severe for not signing the oath than it is for committing treason.
hmm,
Interesting.
yeah. And so those fires were burning, and they didn't do anything about the fires, pass legislation regarding fires. They focused on money to protect themselves against Trump prosecuting them. And of course, they framed it differently, but we know that that's really what it was. It was
Well,
about
as
protecting.
Governor Hairdo said, we're going to Trump-proof California. That was
Right,
how they presented the whole thing.
right,
Interesting.
right.
Well,
But,
see,
and,
it's
but,
so funny because I've heard this oath thing before, and my friend I was telling you about earlier, I actually had her on the radio with me a couple of times, and she couldn't get anybody to grasp the importance of it and why it's important. You have done that now better than anyone up to this point. You've explained it to me why it's so important and why they're so dead set against it, and it all has to do with potential prosecution for the reign of terror they have brought down on my state, my once golden state. This makes a lot of sense. I get it now.
mhm.
I get it. I want to see something done. I do want to see them take that oath and then be prosecuted.
They can still be prosecuted for all past terms.
That's what I want to see. So that they're held to a higher punishment. But wow, extraordinary, Christy. Christy Grab. It's again GW San Diego.net/blog. And I keep
Mhm.
saying /blog at the end because when I just looked up the website, it said, yeah, there is no such place. Did you know that?
Yeah, yeah, I do know that. I don't understand what the problem is. My husband has tried to fix it a bunch of times. I don't know
Problem
why it
is you're
doesn't work
conservative.
without the
That's the problem.
it could be, but I'm a believer in sometimes bad things happen um, to protect you from worse things happening. So I kind of feel like the fact that I cannot fix that /blog problem is a sign that maybe there's a reason why I need to stay a little bit under the radar.
And that's fine. So yeah, because that means it won't show up in searches, will it? So I'm just telling. I bring all this up not to tell Christy your website's broken, but to point out to you that you got to be careful how you put it in, or you will not be able to see what she has compiled and all the work she's put into this.
I
And
do want to mention
got
that Rob Bonta, he did post my husband's social security numbers on the internet to retaliate against us. So the state of California has already tried to harm me. So, like I said, I kind of feel like not being able to fix that /blog is preventing something worse from happening. Knock on wood, nothing has come of that as of yet. And hopefully nothing ever will come of that. But that tells you the caliber of human being that Rob Bonta is.
oh, he's a pig. He's a swine, flat out
Mm-hmm.
swine,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife, Mia. So let's concentrate on getting that right. It's gwsandiego.net/blog.
Correct.
Um, please go there. Please share it. Share it with like minded people. Here's why it is so important. Now, all that aside, I want to talk to you about some personal stuff because I'm fascinated with it.
Okay.
I'm fascinated with this. I grew up in the desert. I mean, Bakersfield, not even in Bakersfield. There's another town called Taft, which is, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all desert. So, where did my love of sailing come from? But I love the water. I love boats. My preference is sailboats. And so, for almost my entire adult life, anyone who will listen when we start talking about what do you want to do when you grow up, I say I want to own a deep water catamaran and I want to sail around the world. And when I'm done doing that, I want to do it again. I have had this dream, and then I meet you, and you're casually going, yeah, we're on our boat right now. Your boat? Where? Jamaica. Jamaica? What? Oh, yeah, we are liveaboards, is what they're called. Literally, that's their home, is living on their boats. Now, I don't know if you have a stick built home too to go to, but a lot of people have chucked it all and they're living on these awesome boats. And that has become their life. And I've met so many people because I go to boat shows. I don't have a big fancy boat. I don't have that kind of money, but I can dream. So I go to boat shows and I talk to people who have been liveaboards and the stories they tell. And, my first question is, any regrets? No. The only regret is we didn't do this so much sooner. They love the lifestyle. They love it. And there's a camaraderie and a community of boaters when you're liveaboards like that that is incomparable. You all lift each other up and help each other, and nobody seems to throw better parties than boating people. So, is that what you're actually doing? You're a liveaboard?
Yeah, part time, part of the year.
That's awesome. And that's so fun. What's that like?
God, that's a broad question.
What did you do before? I mean, when did you decide, let's live on our boat half the year?
I worked in the mortgage industry, and my husband wrote software. And when we got engaged, I told him that I wanted to buy an around the world plane ticket and go traveling for a year before we had kids. And my husband said, "Nope, I will not be a vagabond living out of a suitcase." And then meanwhile, he had a little boat and he wanted to buy a bigger boat. And I said, "Oh no, we are not spending money on a bigger boat because we don't use our little boat that much.
You don't
And we're
use it
not,
enough, yeah. And
and
like
it's,
they
we're
say,
like,
the two
it's very,
greatest days in a boat owner's life is the day that he buys the boat, and the second best is the day he sells it.
right. And so a few weeks after I vetoed my husband buying, well, he was then my fiance buying another boat,
Vetoed, right?
he comes back to me and he says, "Okay, how about we travel around the world on a boat?" And I said, "Okay, you got a deal." So, so originally we were going to sail around the world in 2 years and then come home and sell the boat and go back to land life. But we loved it so much that we've kept the boat. And, we had one kid and we're raising him, we're on board about half the time. So we're raising him half time on board. And yeah, it's I think it's not a life for most people. But for the people it's really magical. And I try to explain, like, when we're in San Diego in land life, I don't know what the moon phase is. I don't know what time the tides are. I don't know how big the tides are. And I don't know what the weather is, other than do I need a jacket or an umbrella? Like, I feel very disconnected from Mother Nature. Um, but then when we're on the boat, our whole world revolves around Mother Nature. When we go, where we go, what we do, everything is dictated by nature. And I'm keenly aware of things like tide swings and the time of the tides and how big the tide will be and the moon. And I like feeling connected to nature like that. I like feeling at one with Mother Earth. I don't like that. I mean, I love my life in San Diego. I have a wonderful life in San Diego, but it is lacking that connection with God and nature.
Absolutely, it is. And it will change your life, and you'll never forget it. Just this simple thing, which scares people to death, the mere idea of it. Being on a boat in the middle of the ocean, Pacific, Atlantic, I don't care where, at night, on a clear night, and seeing what stars really look like. There's nothing like it anywhere.
It there's nothing like it. Although I hate to be the bearer of bad news, there are not many clear nights. It's usually pretty overcast in the middle of the ocean. But when there is a clear night, it's amazing. And sometimes the clouds will clear for a few minutes, and even that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. There's so many dangers now, though, with pirates, and it was really bad during the Obama years for some reason. Somalia, especially. Anybody trying to sail around the Horn. Have you done that?
We did. We went through when in the days when the Somali pirates were attacking big vessels, but were leaving small boats alone. And we actually went through right about the same time that they captured the first small boat.
Mm.
And that actually didn't work out very well for them as a business model. And so they pretty much in Somalia anyway, in that part of the world, they've given up on small boats and are continuing to focus on bigger boats where there's lots of people's wallets to take and a payroll to take.
And they're less likely to have weapons because they
Yeah,
weren't allowed to bring them on board.
yeah, right. But piracy is a problem in the Caribbean. Like, we're in the Caribbean now, and like, we wanted to go to Belize, but it is kind of dangerous to go by Venezuela. And so we opted not to in the end, and went to Jamaica instead.
Have you been to Thailand? You sailed to Thailand?
We had sailed to Thailand. Yes,
Oh man.
they are
Tell
the
me about some
nicest.
tell me about some encounters with nature, with animals, marine mammals and so on.
So in Magdalena Bay in Baja California, um, you can you can pet whales, like the baby whales. That's where the gray whales birth whales. And you have to go with a licensed tour guide. If they catch you going on your own, like in your own dinghy or boat, you'll be in big trouble. But you can go with a licensed tour guide. And what they do is they go out to the area where the babies are born and they just turn off their engine. And pretty soon a baby comes and like pokes his head out and looks at you because you know the eyes are on the side of the head,
Uh-huh.
looks at you, and then the guide like reaches out and pets it and encourages you to pet it. I've got all kinds of video of us petting whales, and like the whale is so curious about us and like checking us out and swimming around. And
Are you on a
it was
power boat or a sail?
we're on a powerboat. It's a trawler.
Okay. Oh, how cool. Plenty of room, especially in the hull, huh? That's very fun. Facilities on board. Was it customized originally a fishing trawler that was converted for liveaboards or what?
No, it's a production boat,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it was always meant to be a liveaboard, but it is a trawler, style design. So
That is so exciting. Have you encountered any kind of space junk, as they say? Space has become so polluted with so much junk. The ocean, I'm afraid, is the same way. You can't see something that's just slightly submerged, but if you hit it, it's going to do catastrophic damage, depending on how fast you're going.
So
That's
we have
very
not
real.
encountered that personally, but we've heard a lot of stories from a lot of other people. It is a serious, serious issue, particularly in the colder climates. I don't know what it is about the cold water, but things tend to be a little more submerged under just barely under the surface in the cold water than the warm. But it's something that we have to be afraid, I mean, wary of here. When we're moving, somebody is always on watch. We never ever
You can't
um
even spot it though. You can't even spot it because you're not that far above the surface of the water to be able to really look down. So you can't even spot these things. Do you have any
so
kind of a
that's
sonar? Do you have a sonar thing maybe letting you know the
we
approaching
we
object? If you have a fish finder, why can't you have a junk finder?
we just installed a sonar last year,
There it
so
is.
we do have one now. And so one of the nice things about a trawler is it sits up higher in the water,
It
so
does.
we do
That's
have
right.
better visibility than a sailboat. Although you're right, like a lot of things you can't see, especially when the water's not clear. I mean, uh,
Right. The deep blue, yeah. You're not going to see much. But how about shipping lanes? I've heard horror stories about people being in shipping lanes and maybe didn't even realize it at the time. In the middle of the night, they anchor or they not anchor, but just, next thing you know, you've got a huge oil tanker bearing down on you, and
shipping lane,
boats disappear. People
shipping lane,
disappear.
yeah, shipping lanes are a serious concern. We generally try to go along the very edge of them, so we are in the lane but not where we'll be run over. But there's been a few places where we couldn't avoid it. Like we went to Singapore before we went to Thailand, and we had to actually cross across the shipping lane. So like our little boat crossing over the shipping lane is like a little toddler trying to run across a 20 lane freeway.
Pretty
Like
fast though. Is it inboard, outboard, inboard or
uh,
outboard motors?
it's an inboard engine.
Okay, good. So most likely diesel, right?
Yep.
And so you got, I mean, what can you do? 18, 19 knots?
No, 6.1 is our
Six.
average.
Okay. So it might
So
take you a
in
little while to get out of the way,
Yeah, so in order to cross an ocean, you have to be fuel efficient. So 6.1 is fuel efficient, right?
which is why I love the idea of a sailboat. Because even if I don't have fuel, I can at least keep making some kind of progress. I just love sailboats. I love the serenity of it, and just like the Christopher Cross song, "Sailing takes me away from where I'm always heard it could be." I've dreamt of that for so long. How physical is it? Physically demanding? Because now I'm in my approaching senior years.
So we're not sailors, and
No, I understand. I understand.
sailing is more physically demanding than being on a power boat. on our boat, it is not physically demanding so much as it is you have to be really flexible with the boat yoga, because like going in the engine room and
Boat
being
yoga.
right back and doing all your work like this, and like and crouching in a small spaces, flexible. My husband has hurt himself quite a few times,
Oops.
from having to do weird bendy twisty things. And
Yeah, there's a reason why so many dudes who serve, for example, on submarines in the Navy are small. There's a reason for that. Big guys can't fit. Are those curtains behind you?
yes.
If you open them, could we see the Caribbean?
Well, we have window covers up to kind of keep out the glare. Do you want me to take you over to the here?
If you can, heck yeah, I'd
I
love
will.
that.
I will move you over. So we are currently in Jamaica.
Oh, this is fun. This is so dang fun. I love this.
Can you see
I
it?
love this. Yes, I
Okay.
do see it.
This is the marina we're in right now.
Oh my goodness. Look at that.
But yeah, it's it's pretty amazing, I have to say. Like every day I'm grateful for my life.
I've known people who, in the summer, they lived in Northern California and worked their gold mine. And then every winter, they were where you are. They were in the Caribbean, usually. I mean, but they'd also sail around. But they were mainly, they flew to where their boat was, and then they sailed their boat to the Caribbean and would just stay around there for the whole dang winter. Um, what a life. What an absolute amazing life that is. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I
Oh,
think
thank you.
you're an
I should
extraordinary woman.
I should probably say that the reason why I've been fighting government corruption, and it started with the franchise tax board and has only escalated beyond the franchise tax board to Scott Wiener and legislators, because they were covering up crimes being committed by the franchise tax board. But I do feel like this is a calling from God. And I feel like, even though I'm off doing other things half the year, I still need to serve my country and serve God by helping to get rid of evil. So that's why I keep doing it, even from far away.
Ephesians 5:11 is what seems to power me and this whole show. And Ephesians 5:11 is be no part of the works of darkness, but instead even expose them. That's what you're doing.
That's what I'm trying to do.
That's what
Exactly.
you are doing. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I pray for success with this great, dramatic, tremendous, because oftentimes bringing people to justice or stopping the evil things that they're doing can be the simplest things that we never even thought of. And maybe this oath thing, I think a lot of people have been like, yeah, whatever, is because it just seems too simple. Yeah, it would never work.
Mhm.
But Al Capone is a fine example. All the murders he did or had people commit, and so on, and all the horrible things that pig of a man did, they got him on tax cheating, tax fraud. That's how they got him. They couldn't. They couldn't. So sometimes it's the simplest things you'd never even thought of. So go there, gwsandiego.net/blog All right. Talk to you soon, Christy.
Thank
Go.
you.
Oh, how? By the way, do you eat fresh fish every night? Do you fish for your own dinner?
We don't fish. I don't like to beat fish to death and cut them up. I have a standing deal with the other.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
I have a standing deal with the other cruisers, though. I tell them all, if you cook it and fillet it, I mean, if you catch it and fillet it, I'll cook it. Like I'll make you dinner if you catch it. So
There you go. Oh, there's few things better than fish right out of the water, and you're having a meal an hour, 2 hours later.
no, it's true.
Especially,
It's true.
yeah,
It's just not. I just have really a hard time with beating a fish to death. I just
I got it. But weren't most of the apostles fishermen?
yes.
So see, God's okay with it. All right, my friend. I'll talk to you later. Have fun.
Okay,
Have fun. I
thanks.
know you will. That's awesome. Look where she is. Look how cool that is. That's absolutely amazing. Living on board a boat. Man, it's like right out of a movie, isn't it? Father, please bless them tremendously. Help them. Keep them safe. Keep the enemy away from them. Protect them. Her and her family. I lift them up to you now, Father, and I pray for safety, protection, favor, and make them effective for your work in your name, Christ Jesus. Amen and amen. We have a Give, Send, Go page now if you want to help this show stay on the air. I really seriously need an actual real computer instead of trying to do these on my laptop. So it's givesendgo.com/DoNotTalk. Givesendgo.com/DoNotTalk. Think about it. Consider it, please. Venmo.com/DoNotTalk. If you do Venmo.com/DoNotTalk. And you can also help this show by following this channel, rumble.com/DoNotTalk. To follow it, though, you have to sign up. It's like YouTube. If you want to like, if you want to comment, you got to actually sign up and have your own account with YouTube. Same thing with Rumble. However, you can still watch any show and you can share them too. But when it comes to being able to like and comment, you're going to have to sign up with Rumble. Don't have to watch this show, though. But if you can follow the page, if you're on Rumble, follow. You'll be helping this show grow tremendously. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God